Hello, I'm Matt Russell and I'd like to welcome you to the channel. In this video I'm going to show you how we make upcycled or reclaimed signs out of the board and batten siding that was on an outbuilding on our property. I am also going to explain my saying, I am going to make it until I don't, and my philosophy around the saying. My wife Melanie and I purchased this property a little more than a year ago, and this outbuilding was the only structure on the property that I could put my woodworking equipment in. The exterior was sided with half-inch, rough-cut, bald cypress board and batten siding. There were many places that you could see light through, and the siding wasn't ideal for keeping the weather out, which resulted in a bit of surface rust on my woodworking equipment. We decided to remove the board and batten and replace it with OSB with a moisture barrier until we could re-side the building with metal siding. The boards that we removed were 11.5 inches wide but only a half-inch thick, which makes them too thin for many projects, but when I clean them up with a technique I will demonstrate in a few minutes, the patina really comes out in a beautiful gray or brown color that makes them look like they have a weathered stain. So rather than the boards filling a landfill or being burned for firewood, we decided to upcycle some awesome signs that we could sell on our website with the pictured saying or with a personalized inscription chosen by our customer. In this video, I'm going to show you how we make them. Now, an explanation of the saying. In my family, it has been kind of a joke when someone is having a rough day to say, "Are you gonna make it?" Knowing that we always reply yes, as kind of a tension breaker. Because of some of my life experiences, I changed my answer to, "Until I don't." You see, if you knew me, you would know that I spent 25 years as a police officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in Jacksonville, Florida, and retired as a patrol sergeant. In those 25 years, I saw my share of death and know it can come at any time. From the unusual occurrence of a man that was crushed by a forklift that he was operating when he backed out of a semi-trailer that had rolled away from the loading dock to the more common automobile crash. The most common death cases that I would respond to in my last 5 years as a police officer were opioid overdose deaths. Even though overdose deaths touch all walks of life, from the homeless to medical professionals and even the adult children of my fellow officers, these deaths do not get the attention that they should. On this point, if you are afflicted with an opioid addiction, please seek some professional help because your next trip could very well be your last. When you see the things that you see as a police officer, it gives you a different perspective on life. You know it can be fleeting, but you also know that most Americans live into their 70s. So for me, I accept that I'm going to live on this earth as long as God wants me here and not 1 second longer. As long as I am alive, I am going to continue to learn as much as I can so that I can serve the people that God put me on the earth to serve in a manner that pleases Him. Ergo, I am going to make it until I don't. On a more humorous point about being a retired police officer, the other day I was in my yard and I saw a bunch of vultures flying around and landing in some trees on my property. We have several coyotes, bobcats, and even a bear that frequent our property, which you can see in a video link at the end of this video for my 2023 recap of animals on our property. It is kind of funny how 25 years as a police officer makes me think of the worst as my first response to a situation. As I got downwind of where the vulture was, I was relieved when I could smell a dead animal and not a dead human. It is also kind of funny how I can tell the difference between the smell of a dead animal and the smell of a dead human. It turns out it was just a dead possum. Back to the video. I am using a Legacy Maverick CNC router that my wife and I purchased back in 2019. It has a 4-foot by 8-foot bed, a turning station, and a vertical work holding station, and I have the optional vacuum table. In this video, I am just using the flat bed with a T-track configuration. I cut each piece into a 45.5-inch section that I can machine into 3 signs. I hold the boards down on the bed with some improvised MDF blocks on the left side of the board that are cut at a 35-degree angle, and Legacy's T-track stop blocks on the right side. The normal Legacy low profile clamps are too tall for these thin boards. I also use 1/4 inch oak dowels to locate the position of the board on the table prior to clamping. I will have more on using dowels for positioning in a future video. In the video, I used a 60-degree V-bit as well as a 90-degree V-bit to cut the inscriptions into the signs. In the end, I settled on the 60-degree V-bit as it was more forgiving with wood that is not all consistently a 1/2 inch thick and is more likely than not warped. When I started working on this video, I was thinking of different techniques that I could use to make the video short enough for people to enjoy. Most videos that I have seen on YouTube that demonstrate CNC routers or lasers speed up the content to shorten the video. For me at least, this technique was less than helpful. If you are watching the video for entertainment or enjoyment, I can understand that you want to get the most of your time. If, however, you are watching this video to better understand the concepts and learn how to do something, I think speeding up the video is counterproductive and gives you a false sense of timing. In my videos, I will try to cut the duplicate steps out while trying to keep you engaged, as my primary purpose with my videos is to help other people become makers and at the same time assist them in making better buying decisions. With this in mind, the inscription is the slowest part of the CNC process, and I am therefore only showing the engraving of one of the 3 signs that are being produced at one time. After the V-bit carves the inscription into the sign, I use a 1/8 inch compression bit to drill the mounting holes and then cut the profile of the sign out. I am using a 1/8 inch compression bit for cutting the sign out because I can use it to machine the mounting holes, which cuts 1 bit change out. I could use a 1/4 inch compression bit to cut this out in 2 passes, but the time I would gain by using the larger bit would be lost in the time it would take me to do an extra bit change. This is one annoying thing about my legacy CNC router because it defaults to 100 inches per minute even when I have set the feed speed to 150 inches per minute when it starts to cut, and I have to manually adjust it up to 150 inches per minute. This means I can't get too far away from the machine until it gets to the profile cutout so I can increase the speed. When using the T-Track bed, I leave tabs on the profile cut to keep the part in place while the profile cut is being done, and do an 8/1000 offset on the last pass to get rid of the layer lines. This is where a CNC router really shines. It could carve an inscription, drill precise holes, and cut unusual shapes out almost as fast as it can cut in a straight line. Since we bought our CNC, there are many more economical options of CNC routers available. I have the dust collector door open so you can see what the bit is doing, and with my dust collection, it collects most of the fine particles of dust even with the door open. Absent getting video, I keep the door closed so that the dust collection is more efficient. The skirt you see around the bristles of the dust collector shoe is there to keep my dust collector from sucking the bristles in the way of the bit and up into the dust pool. When you see the bit step up and then back down, it is leaving a tab that holds the part in place. After the part is done at the CNC, I remove it and cut the tabs with a utility knife. I use a 1/16" radius roundover bit with a brass bearing to remove the tabs and give the edge a slight roundover. Here is where I use a technique I hadn't seen before. I previously bought some white Scotch-Brite pads to use with some Osmo finish. When I was looking at different ways I could clean these boards up without removing the patina, I thought of the Scotch-Brite pads and gave it a try. The pads clean the dirt and debris from the boards without removing the patina. After cleaning the wood up with the Scotch-Brite pads, the wood looks very different. I use compressed air to blow the dust off prior to spraying them with 2 coats of lacquer, Scotch-Brite in between each coat. I finished both sides to prevent additional warping of the boards that would occur if I only finished one side. It is pretty amazing to see the transformation of the wood as it is processed. It started out as dingy old siding when we bought this place. It was taken off the building and all the nails, screws, staples, and even BBs were removed, which took quite a bit of time. After cleanup with a Scotch-Brite pad, it looks even better, but not quite the look of something I would want to sell. After 2 coats of lacquer, the wood is transformed into a beautiful sign with brown and gray patina preserved under the lacquer. It was a bunch of work to salvage these pieces of wood, but these pieces will go on to have new life in the form of signs and will be available on our website, www.wateroakworkshopllc.com. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. I look forward to bringing you more useful content in the future. Have a wonderful day and keep making it until you don't.